I mean, you're like 6 years old, and you see all your favorite Transformers get murdered in the first fucking 20 minutes of the movie.
That was the thing.
You were little when you saw this.
Every fucking... We had no idea what we were in for. Me and my mom, it was Top Gun or Transformers. I'm like, fuck Top Gun. We're seeing Transformers. And we're sitting there, and I got, you got your action figures with you, and everyone fucking dies. Everyone dies in the first 20 minutes of the movie. It's like Saving Private Ryan with robots. Before there was Saving Private Ryan.
Hasbro didn't understand what a good job they had done with characterizations. In their mind, all they were doing was clearing out. Exactly.
Getting new toys.
84, 85, and
just selling toys.
86.
We had to immediately go to Toys R Us across the street and get a Springer, because Springer was my favorite action figure, because everyone else was dead. I can't play with them anymore. They're dead.
I remember I had a buddy that had Ultra Magnus.
Galvatron.
The thing was...
Ultra Magnus was a bitch.
I had a buddy that had him. See, I had another friend, and his parents bought him everything. They bought, he had... all the movie stuff.
They bought him the Unicron playset.
They bought him Galvatron. They bought the Predacons. He had every...
Hey, welcome everyone. This is Geeked and Jacked with your host, Gonzalo Herrero, right here. And joining me is the mastermind, the crazy man, Dr. Todd Lee.
What's up,
and
guys?
Also and I'll say the Reverend, just because I like using titles. Even though you are a Reverend too, Todd, but Reverend Larry from DorkLair podcast and the sundry other geekery and all kind of things nerdy. So, gentlemen, how are you doing today? Let's just get into it.
Well,
what's up, man? So you're telling me about the Castle Grayskull?
So this is my office. This is my spillover room. My real collection room is next door. Hang on, Gonzalo. I'm gonna shoot you. I'm just gonna shoot you a handful of pictures. If you want to throw them up, you can. So I'm shooting him some pictures of my real collection room. So this is my overflow. I've got like my fees and then my overflow from my Masters of the Universe stuff. So I've only got maybe 10% of what I own on display. But in the back there, that Castle Grayskull is from the Classics line that came out from 2008 to 2023. It's a 7-inch line. You got a point dread there on top. But then the He-Man figures that you see around are from a 1/6 scale line that's out right now by a company called Mondo, and they're really, really, really highly detailed. In the other room is, all of my other collectible stuff. A ton of Transformers imported stuff, Marvel imports, G.I. Joe, Batman stuff, all the pop culture stuff.
Shit.
Actually, this is my room where I unpack my stuff. This Star Convoy showed up today. This is the latest piece from Hasbro's retail line, but I've got like 4 shelves full of Optimus Primes. He's my favorite fictional character. So I've averaged like a new Optimus Prime of some kind at least 3 or 4 times a month. So tons of those.
You like Optimus Prime more than Megatron?
Here's the thing. When I was a kid, my dad drove a truck, and he drove a red Peterbilt that looked just like Prime's G1. So I fell in love with Optimus Prime from a young age. But I've got a huge Megatron shelf too.
So I had
let it never be said that we don't have nerd cred on this podcast. I'm going to put the pictures here right now because this is, I don't know if you guys can see.
That's not going to show.
Locked up.
Well, I think he sent it to you so you can put it on the screen.
Yeah, let me see how I can. You guys talk amongst yourselves while I figure
this out. Growing up, what?
So I had the Castle Grayskull in like 84. Mirage was my first Transformer. I got him in 82. I was always a fan of Starscream and Megatron, Cobra Commander. And Skeletor. I always thought that the good guys were boring because they're all like every other good guy.
The bad guy designs better.
They look the same. They act the same. He-Man looks like Duke. Like they're all basically the same.
I've got a Skeletor up top. I've got a Dragon Blast.
I see that on
another Skeletor at the bottom. I've got the animated and the Keldor there in the middle. Yeah, Skeletor, I love his designs. I loved Conan growing up. And when they designed the He-Man line, it was originally going to be, Mattel was going to do a figure line for the Conan movie. Well, then, yeah, then Mattel figured out, wait a minute, this is rated R. We can't market this to kids. So they pulled out of that. And then they took what they had been doing with these barbarian designs and went in another direction. And that's why now in the Conan movie, Thulsa Doom was James Earl Jones, the snake guy. But in the comics, in the old Howard, was it Robert Howard? Was it, whatever the guy's name was, Robert E.
Yeah,
Howard.
Robert E. Howard.
Thulsa Doom was a skull-faced barbarian. Well, where do you think they got their, that's where they got their inspiration.
Gotcha.
So, yeah. But yeah, so growing up, my little brother had an October birthday. I had a January birthday. New toys always launch in the fall. So he got the first He-Man and Battle Cat. He got the first Transformer. He got Soundwave. And then that Christmas, he got Megatron. I got Prime. So he always got them first, but he never cared about toys. So I ended up inheriting everything anyway. And all of my stuff from my childhood, I still have. My He-Man stuff from 82 on, all of my old G.I. Joe stuff, all of my old Transformer stuff. I've got all that in storage. I held on to that stuff because when we were growing up, the other thing was we weren't poor, but we weren't rich. So we got toys for Christmas and birthday, and that was it. So whatever I got, I took really good care of. So I've still got most of that stuff. Yeah.
There you go.
Good shit, man.
Oh, yeah.
Good
No,
shit.
he's got
I
a
told
collection.
Gonzalo the first
I like
week
it.
y'all did this, it was you and him and Paul, and you were going off. I can't remember if you guys were talking about Marvel or Star Wars. And I told Gonzalo later, I was like, you didn't need me on there because everything that I was thinking, Todd already said out loud. So you didn't even miss me.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Absolutely. So let's see if I can open up some of these pictures because they are truly amazing. Let's see.
Which one's favorite?
All right, let's see if we can see them with this tab. Oh my god, why is it telling me to verify that it's me?
Yeah, something's coming up.
Let's see.
Security. I hate how security focused these computers are.
Oh my goodness, it's absurd.
It is a little.
It is absurd, and I don't know why it's. Oh my goodness, it's not even the right tab.
It looks much better like that.
Yeah, let me see if I can.
With us on the sides. It's cutting off our shoulders with this vertical view. But with the Hollywood Squares view, it's like more flattering.
Let's see. There we go. This might work. All right, guys, tell me if you can see that.
Yeah.
There we
Hulk
go.
Hogan.
Yeah. No, he's got like there's Hulk Hogan. Here's all
Just
the
Optimus. Just Optimus.
Just
Wow.
Optimus.
Those are
Just
just
Optimus.
Optimus.
All right, let me ask you this. Do you still cry when you watch the 1986 Transformers
No, but
movie
I'm not
and
forgiven.
Optimus
I'm not
Prime
forgiven
dies?
Hot Rod. That was Prime's fight, damn it.
Dude, I still cry. To this day, every time I see that scene, I cry my eyes out. Like
That would be-
sobbing, ugly crying with snot coming out. Like every
It got
time
me
I
when I
watch
was a kid, for sure.
Optimus Prime
It got
die,
me
I
when I
cry.
was a kid.
I would say that's an easy test to know if my estrogen is high. If I start crying watching that, I'll be like,
Back
oh,
off on the Clomid now.
that's too much.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's a traumatic movie. I mean, if
Yeah.
you're like
No,
6 years
it
old
was.
and you see all your favorite Transformers get
Well, and
murdered
that
in
was
the
the-
first fucking 20 minutes of the
That's
movie.
right. You were little when you saw this.
Every fucking, we
No.
had no idea what we were in for. Me and my mom, it was Top Gun or Transformers. I'm like, fuck Top Gun. We're seeing Transformers. And we're sitting there, and I got, you got your action figures with you, and everyone fucking dies. Everyone dies in the first 20 minutes of the movie. It's like Saving Private Ryan
it
with
was.
robots before there was Saving
See,
Private
Hasbro,
Ryan.
Hasbro didn't understand what a good job they had done with characterizations. In their mind, all they were doing was clearing out. Exactly.
getting new
clearing out
toys.
84,
Yeah.
85, and
Just selling
selling
toys.
86.
We had to immediately go to Toys R Us across the street
Yeah.
and get a Springer, because Springer was my favorite action figure, because everyone else was dead. I
Yeah,
can't play
what
with
can
them
you
anymore.
do?
They're dead.
I remember I had a friend, I had a buddy
Yeah,
that had
so-
Ultra Magnus.
Galvatron.
The thing was,
Ultra Magnus
Yeah.
was a bitch.
I
Fuck
had a
Ultra
buddy that had
Magnus.
him. See, I had another friend, and his parents bought him everything. They bought, he had all the movie stuff.
They bought him the Unicron
got-
playset.
They bought
Okay.
him
Oh my God.
Galvatron. They bought the Predacons. He had everything. And I just loved going over to his house. Just everything,
Sharkicons. My dad loved the Sharkicons. They were his
Those
favorite.
are cool. Those
The
are cool.
Sharkicons. And you
Yeah.
had to buy more
Yeah.
than one because you were too dumb to realize it was just a trick. And then they didn't make an RC action figure. It's like, why the fuck don't you make an RC action figure?
Oh, they didn't make
The
one?
one,
Huh.
Yeah.
One girl transformer.
So
They've never
here's
made an
what they're
action
doing
figure
now.
of her.
There's a line that they're doing now. They call it Missing Link. And it's a Japanese line. And like if you can, you probably can't zoom in, that last page with all the Optimus Primes on it. So on that top left shelf.
Holy shit.
Can you zoom in at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think so, unfortunately.
You use the hourglass.
So there's
where's the
what they've done is they've got this line and it's called Missing Link. Takara, the Japanese company's doing it, and they're taking the molds for the original figures. One of those, there's an 84 Optimus Prime up there, but there's also one that looks like an 84, but it has the articulation of one of today's figures. So they're doing that, and in addition to that, they're doing, like, they never produced Unicron.
The hourglass is right here at the bottom of the screen, bro.
Yeah.
Is it? I can't even see it.
Right next to the plus.
Right next to the plus in the bottom of the screen.
Yeah.
Over here.
Right.
Yeah, it's being covered by a dialogue box. There we go. So where do you want me to go?
Up to the top at the left. Yeah.
I don't think you can do that.
Yeah, that I can't not do.
It.
But
so anyway, what they're doing is they're going
though.
back and they've done Optimus Prime, they've done Bumblebee and Cliffjumper. Again, the molds from the original toys, but they've gone in and put elbows and wrists and all this stuff in there. And what they're doing, they did an RC back in '86. They did an RC prototype. They never produced it, so they're producing that in the Missing Link.
Why?
Because it didn't look right. They didn't have the toy technology to make it look right.
It just she didn't look feminine.
Just looked
she
like
just
blocky,
looked blocky.
But they're doing that.
Okay.
In they're doing the prototype colors and in the correct movie colors. And then the Unicron, they never did the Unicron play set.
Right. Because it's too fucking big.
They couldn't get the cost to justify
look at that.
But one of those pictures that I sent through, HasLab, about 4 or 5 years ago, they should be in that grouping. Keep going through there. Yeah.
That grouping?
Hang on. It was.
Okay, I got some G.I. Joes over here. I got some. It's a little bit of a corner of some Transformers here with the DC
another. Keep going there. Keep going to the right. One more. I don't think you have all of them downloaded. So there's one long.
What do you do for a living, bro?
I'm a glaucoma specialist for Alcon.
What?
No,
is you a doctor?
Oh, Lord, no, boy. If I'm the doctor, you are in trouble. You're going blind, my friend. No, I'm a
glaucoma specialist. What do you?
Medical sales.
You're like a rep.
Yep. So we've got in our company.
But you go into like surgeries when they do stuff, right?
I don't sell surgical. I sell medical, but I've done preceptorship. So I've been able to watch trabs and all those kind of things, SLTs. I've had a chance to observe those. But I've been in medical sales since 2004, and I've been in eye care since 2016.
So what do they do to treat glaucoma now? Is it still basically muscarinic receptors?
So first line, for a lot of doctors, first line now is SLT, which is a laser procedure that opens up the trabecular meshwork so you can have more outflow of the aqueous humor. Because largely glaucoma is a function of outflow. There's not enough pliability in either the trabecular meshwork or the uniscleral outflow. So they need to open that up, because if you try to, there are drugs that will slow down inflow of aqueous humor. But if you do that, you're slowing, basically that's the blood for the eye, because you don't have blood flow inside the eye. You're going to slow down bringing in nutrients and all that kind of stuff. So the products that I sell 2 products. They're called Rho kinase inhibitors. And what they do is they actively relax, and they relax the trabecular meshwork, and they vasodilate. So it opens up that trabecular meshwork so you can get more outflow, bring those IOPs down.
How does it do that?
By opening up the trabecular meshwork, and you get outflow.
But how does it do that?
It's one of those drugs that
what's the receptor that it binds to?
We know it inhibits Rho kinase. So Rho kinase can cause that trabecular meshwork to get fibrotic, but we do not know how it inhibits Rho kinase. We just know that it's one of those where mechanism of action is unknown. We just know that it inhibits Rho kinase.
Okay.
So it does that, but what's really key, I can't say this to a doctor because it's not inside the guidelines of the literature, but the way Rho kinase inhibitors really work is they also vasodilate. So you get You get outflow through the trabecular meshworks, through Schlimm's canal, then through the episcleral vein. Now, anyone that deals with glaucoma knows episcleral venous pressure is the ultimate determinant of how low you can get IOPs. It's what they call the IOP floor. So the lower you can get episcleral venous pressure, the lower ultimately you can get the IOP inside the eye. And it's the only drug that does that. But because of the way the approval, the FDA approvals and all that were set up, we can't say it lowers the floor. All we can say to the doctor is it goes through the episcleral vein.
How does it How does it vasodilate?
It's again, the Rho kinase inhibitor has a vasodilatory effect everywhere in the eye.
But we don't know the mechanism of action?
No, we do not. But it leads to one of the things that cause patients to not want to use it. If you have vasodilation, what do? You get hyperemia in the eye. So you get bloodshot eyes. Now,
got blood inside the eye?
Just the veins in the eye, they look like they have inflammation. But it's not.
Who cares if they're in less pain? Why would they give a shit?
That's it exactly. It brings the IOPs down. What we tell them is it's a once-a-day drop. Hyperemia is the worst in 3 to 5 hours. So we tell them take the drop with dinner. You're gonna sleep
in the morning.
You get a dinner. You sleep through the worst of it. Yeah, you sleep through the worst of it. It works all the way through the night. It's not like a beta blocker that doesn't work at night. It works 24 hours, so it brings down diurnal pressure.
Nice.
And then it's also self-limiting. So over the course of about 6 to 8 weeks, that hyperemic state in the eye itself is going to calm down through the episcleral vein and the aqueous vein, but the redness of the eyes won't be as bad. It's an awesome drug.
People are such fucking babies.
They are.
It's like people would rather just lose their eyesight than have red eyes.
And that's what the doctors say. They say, okay, you can either see red or you can see black. It's up to you.
Yeah, shit.
And that's the thing about glaucoma. And I'll say this for you guys or for anyone that's listening. If you have a relative that has glaucoma, the number one thing that doctors fight with is compliance. Because here's why.
Well, that's every fucking disease. Because patients are stupid.
It's doubly problematic because glaucoma in and of itself does not cause pain. The optic nerve feels no pain. So when it's getting squeezed, when it's getting in danger, you don't know. I've told them, all of my doctors, we've had the discussion. I wish on some level glaucoma caused some kind of pain because patients don't think about it.
So people would take action.
Because they'll go back for a visual field test and they start tunneling. And they're like, oh, what can I do? You can't do anything. That's the thing about glaucoma. There's no cure and you can't back it up. It's a rock that's rolling down the hill and all you can do is try to stop that rock. You can't roll it back up the hill. So once
that's good to know.
Once a visual field starts to retract, that if a person's seeing this, that's the best they're ever going to see. All they can do is try to maintain that. So if you have a relative that has glaucoma, my brother-in-law, my wife's sister's husband is a hand surgeon and his dad has glaucoma. And the first time I met him, I spent an hour preaching him about why he needed to take his drops because
go check that out.
Yeah, I mean that's all that's standing between you and blindness. It's nothing to mess around with.
Man, I can't even imagine.
I have a hard time getting these dumb fuckers to do daily injections, so I can only imagine how hard it would be to get them to put shit in their eyes every day.
It's surprising.
So Todd, let me ask you, how's your prep going? You're 13 weeks, right?
It's so fucking easy. I'll send you some update pictures. You can share these if you want.
Nice. If you can email. If not, I'll do the whole transfer thing. But yeah, man. I mean, so easy with the stack we talked about last week, right?
Nice. It's so easy this way.
Stack right now, Todd.
All right, so it's Clen to liberate the fat from the fat cells, L-carnitine to transport to the mitochondria, retatrutide for the appetite suppression, MT2 for appetite suppression, and then MOTC to upregulate the efficiency of the mitochondria. Something else that's really obvious. Sloopy drives mitochondrial function.
What dose are you taking? What
and
dose
it's working great.
In your SLU right now?
250 3 times a day.
Because I was telling you, all before you got on, I'm going to throw that in. And I was looking at the dosages and you see some people talking about milligrams. And I'm like, are you people crazy? You are talking about micrograms, right?
I don't know. Let me go look at the bottle.
Yeah. So it's probably I would assume it's micrograms. Like I know that if it's in pill format, he did mention pill, right? Usually it's either 250 or 500 is what I've seen. Yeah. Those are the ones that I've seen mostly. So, but yeah, I mean, and interesting how he's, you know, even though he's smaller in height than me, he's bigger though. So his
250 micrograms.
Yeah, 250 micrograms. That's what we thought. Interestingly enough, it needs 3 or uses 3 for best effect. Or 3 doses at 250, right? While
Well,
I
the
use
plan is
2
to use
at 250.
4. The plan is to use
Oh.
4. I just never remember the fourth one.
Oh, gotcha.
But I'm supposed to be using 4. So like the Clen is 40. Mot C is 1 milligram a day. Retatrutide is 1.5 milligrams after a high day. And I have 2 high days a week. My carbs are normally 160 on low days, and now they're 400 on high days.
So what is this Mot C? That's one I'm not familiar with.
Man, that's cool stuff.
Mot C,
Expensive stuff.
so, you know, I thought it was a mitochondrial upregulator. According to ChatGPT, it's not. It basically is an insulin sensitizer. But nonetheless, I found that it really helps with energy when you're at the end of prep. It doesn't really matter in the off season, but when you're in prep, it really helps with energy. I found that it also worked really good when you stack it with DNP.
Okay.
So, but not that I'm using DNP right now. DNP is a nuclear option, but.
So here you go, guys.
That was
this
today.
Is right now? Today?
Yeah, that was today. 191.
So, shit, 12 weeks out, and you're already
13
there,
weeks out. 13
weeks
out.
Oh, that's right. You're 10 weeks out, Larry, right? Okay. Dang, guy.
Nice.
Well done. It's effort, man. Bodybuilder. That's the competitive bodybuilder there.
So that's my most classic pose or whatever, favorite classic pose.
So I was reading about another thing that some folks are using in the stack, and this is a new one to me. Mirabegron.
Yeah, I'm familiar with that one. That's
I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it.
It's supposed to be the one of the new hotnesses with BAM 15 too, being the other new hotness. Supposedly very well tolerated. I can't even pronounce it.
What I understand is, what's the point of BAM 15 when there's DNP? Is it supposed to be less dangerous?
Exactly. That's it. It's the risk mitigation. It doesn't do the mitochondrial? Is it upspin? Like, it doesn't do it quite as severely as DNP.
So just use less DNP.
Uncoupling. That's what it is.
Yeah, you just use less. Everyone's using hundreds of milligrams of DNP. Why don't you do 20 milligrams of DNP? Like, people are so dumb. They get a pill that's 100 milligrams. They think that's the minimum dose. No, you just break the pill in half or a quarter.
Yeah. It's risk mitigation. I'm sure it's an option. Now, the thing with BAM 15 is it hasn't even gone through phase 1 trials. I was actually reading about it because I considered it just to, like, again, being the biohacker, it's interesting, but I'm not touching it until it's past phase 1. Like,
so mirabegron is for overactive bladder.
Well, yeah, that's
it's a beta-3 adrenergic receptor. Oh, it's an beta-3 agonist. Okay, so it works like Clen. It's just poor man's Clen.
Okay,
because Clen does beta-2 and beta-3.
Gotcha.
Synephrine does beta-3. So why the fuck even bother with this bladder medication when you could just use synephrine and Clen? People are trying to sell shit that isn't illegal. Right. That's why they make this crap up. So DNP is illegal, Clen's illegal. So they're trying to tell you, oh, we got this new like AOD bullshit. It's like, you could just use GH. And it's like, what, GH? We can't sell it because it's illegal. So we're going to trick all these dumb influencers to push this. Like, use our code and then buy this shit so I can get rich. That's what I was
wondering, because I was like, it looks like an anticholinergic. So yeah, I didn't get it.
Well, it's not an anticholinergic. It's an adrenergic.
That's what I meant. I'm sorry.
Beta-3 adrenergic receptor on the fat cells. What we were talking about before, the eye drops, the original treatment for glaucoma was an anticholinergic because it either activates muscarinic or it antagonizes it. I don't remember. I was never good with ophthalmology. I'm blind, so I figure what the fuck's the point?
But shit. So let's see. What else are we talking about? Oh, so thing that popped into my head that I sent you guys just to have a topic. Alternate history, man. Alternate history stuff.
The best alternate history, hands down, no question, World of Darkness. No fucking compromise. Nothing comes close.
What is this on?
Every single thing that happened in history is accounted for. So World of Darkness is a role-playing game. You've heard of Vampire the Masquerade? Vampire Masquerade is one stroke on the wheel. But there's Werewolf the Apocalypse, Mage the Ascension. I talk about it every fucking episode.
Yeah, it's like a fun thing that we share, actually.
At one point it was the second most popular role-playing game in the world, Vampire, and then they killed Vampire to come out with Requiem, and they just destroyed their business. It was the stupidest fucking thing ever, because they had the Gehenna, which was the end of the world, and they're like, well, there's nothing we can do now because the world ended. So they started with a new game that had better rules but no plot. And lots of people read the books and had no one to play with because the plot was so good. It's like Warhammer. Warhammer's a crappy game, but it's fucking amazing stories.
So,
and I don't mean the video games. The video games are sweet, but the actual rolling the dice and having miniatures fight each other is boring and it's expensive.
It's hard too, and it's expensive. That's
so I never
Yeah.
I never got into gaming. I've never had the time. So my alternate history, and y'all have probably seen this. Did you ever see Man in the High Castle?
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Very
That was
good
great.
choice.
That was a great
I
show.
Very good
love
choice.
that. That's
Great
so
show.
good.
Yeah,
But that
definitely.
only
The book was
it was-
great, and the
Yeah.
show was great. Both.
Only goes back 60 years or 80
Yeah.
years. I mean, with Vampire, like they go all the way back
See,
to the
that
Old
would be
Testament.
awesome.
And there's different things that happen. And then like there's the Demon the Fallen game, which tells the story of what happened to the angels after they were kicked out of heaven. And then when hell gets cracked open, when the Gehenna starts in 99, these demons start leaking out of hell and they start inhabiting actors and actresses in Los Angeles, the city of fallen
I thought
angels.
you said alternate
And so
history. That's what
even
really
if you just
happened.
read the demon, yeah. So
Probably.
it's, dude, there's no question that the World of Darkness, specifically Vampire the Masquerade's retelling of history, is by far the best. Now, the closest other thing that happened is technically now Shadowrun is an
Oh, that was
alternate
my pick.
history, because Shadowrun starts in 2000 with the Century Ferret, that all of a sudden there's a ferret that's bigger than anyone's ever seen a ferret before. And then weird shit started happening. And then in 2013, kids are being born as elves and dwarves. And I believe there's a dragon
That's right.
erupts from
Yep.
Mount Fuji.
It comes from Mount St. Helens, I think, or something. Yeah,
I thought it was Mount Fuji.
it could be Mount Fuji.
There's multiple
could be.
dragons that
It's been a while.
erupted. Lothwir was
Yeah.
the dragon and controlled Seder Krups. And then Sony got fused with another company and Fuji and a couple other things. And that was ruled by that dragon. But the plot of fucking Shadowrun was so amazing that there was a subsection of Shadowrun that explained that vampires not only exist, but they've been here the whole fucking time. And that's what started Vampire the Masquerade. That one aspect of Shadowrun, that vampires
Really?
existed the whole time, was the inspiration. If you look at the game mechanics, they went from a die 6 from Shadowrun to a die 10
Right.
for Vampire, because
Right.
Shadowrun was released in 89 and the second edition came out in 92, but Vampire the Masquerade first edition was 91.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, so clearly Vampire the Masquerade fits in the shadow of Shadowrun. And Shadowrun is, of course, influenced by Cyberpunk. And Cyberpunk,
Absolutely.
yeah, but Shadowrun was taking Cyberpunk and added riffs to it. So riffs, if you roll riffs back far enough, it actually allows for Shadowrun to be a prelude to riffs.
Yeah. Now, I have my entries, my alternate entries, and it's a book. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of an author named Robert Silverberg, big sci-fi guy. But he wrote a book that you guys should check out called Roma Eterna. And the idea of the whole book is, what if the Roman Empire never fell?
That
I
sounds
like
awesome.
that.
And it's a collection of short stories in different time periods leading up to now. And
That sounds
how
great.
history
Okay, so it's like
Yeah,
an
yeah.
anthology
Roma
of
Eterna.
stories.
It does.
Yeah, all by the same
Okay.
author. You know, that's his thing. Robert Silverberg's amazing. He wrote, I mean, he's written a ton of shit. But another series that was really good that he wrote was the Lord Valentine series. It's called the Majapur Chronicles. And
I've
it's
heard of
this
that.
clearly sci-fi. Yeah. So
This is
that
it?
one is, yes, I
Yeah, I've
believe
heard
so.
of that one. So that the Roma
So
Eterna,
the Majapur Chronicles is
the
like,
Roma Eterna, is that just one book of collected stories, or is it a series of books? Okay.
it's one book.
'Cause
That is
looks
one book.
interesting.
Yeah,
I
it's one
just
book with
downloaded
all
it.
the short stories. Yeah,
Just
I hope you
download the
enjoy
book
it.
from Audible. I'm going to listen to it tonight. It sounds amazing.
Yeah, it sucks you in. The first story starts a little slow. It's a slow burn, but then you kind of get his style, and then it just goes from there. But the Majapur Chronicles is like this world that's clearly like in the future, like we've colonized it and forgotten about it, basically. And it's a world that's very low in metals, but it's huge. It's like twice the size of Earth, right? So there's all this sci-fi style sorcery stuff. They never really get into if it's magic or not. It's more like psionics and stuff like that. But it's really interesting. Yeah, you
Wait,
might
is
want to
this
check
the
that
same?
out.
Is this the Robert Silverberg thing, or is this something different?
It's the same author. It's a different series.
Okay.
Started with the first book in that series is called Lord Valentine's Castle, and it's astounding. It's one of those.
All right, hold on.
Yeah.
Wait, be patient with me.
Absolutely.
Lord
Take your time. Lord
Valentine's.
Valentine's Castle by Robert
He
Silverberg.
just sounds like an interesting
That's the
author
first
in
one.
general.
Yeah. Brilliant guy for sure.
All right, here we go.
Yeah.
Add it to the library.
Yeah,
All
there
right,
you
cool.
go. Enjoy. Enjoy. So those were like some of my entries of the alternate. I've always loved the idea of like somebody taking like something familiar and finding that little twist, you know?
That's what makes Vampire's story so good, is that it's if you know history, you can
It's all
appreciate
there.
how clever it is. If you don't know history, you don't know the Bible, it's not going to mean as much.
Well, I was looking at the.
But like if you're sitting there at like
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead, Larry.
I was like, if you're at, let's say you're like sitting at an Elysium and you're just sitting there drinking some blood, and in walks in somebody and they're like, who the fuck is that? And then they're like, that's Salome. You mean like the one that got John the Baptist had on a platter? They're like, yeah, that's her. And you're like, oh,
Wow.
shit. The bitch from the Bible just walked in. She's like 3,000 years old and shit. I'm not even going to meet her because as soon as you talk to her, she can use emotion and mind controls and make you her slave. So you like hide from her at the whole fucking party trying to avoid this bitch because she's so dangerous. And it's like, it makes it scarier because if you were in a fantasy realm and like, who's that? That's Lord Hug and Kiss, you know, blah, 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 blah. He's an ancient vampire. It's like, yeah, whatever. Like, you know, it doesn't mean as much. But if it's a character that or like Napoleon walks in and you're like, what the fuck? It's like, is that a Malkavian pretending to be Napoleon? It's like, maybe. Or it could be Napoleon. Yeah, it's like.
See, I
you know, there's a vampire book series, not from the world of darkness. It happens to have vampires. And it's the background. And I just realized, I guess it is alternate history because it's where the Borgia family are vampires.
Right.
They're a family of vampires that competes with other families of vampires. But that one, I forgot the author and the title of that one, but it was insane. That one was crazy. I mean, imagine Lucretia Borgia. Yep. Yeah. Oh, and wait until the last story because he brings it together. Let's just put it that way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah. That's right. That's right. It's a small section of history and a big section of history in two different movies, right? You know? Okay. Yeah. That's the genre. Yeah.
So you would love... Dude, you need to read Berlin by Night, even though it's not a novel. It's basically Berlin by Night. So it's the Vampire the Masquerade version of what happened with the whole World War II from the German point of view. And it actually has it has Himmler in there, and he's like a Tremere. And it's like, they actually explain why the concentration camps were used as farms for blood. And it actually explains it from the vampire's point of view, why it made sense. Now, you saw this again in the show The Strain, that Guillermo del Toro made The Strain, and it was very heavily influenced, obviously, by Berlin by Night because he ripped off so much stuff from Berlin by Night. Now, I looked up the Borgias.
Hey, Todd,
the Borgias were...
Larry's going to have to refresh for a second. Sorry about that. Yeah, he'll be right back. It's the podcast doing podcasty things, unfortunately.
So I looked at the Borgias, and they are La Sombra pawns. That
not surprised.
Caesar Borgia was ghouled and possibly embraced. Rodrigo Borgia was served as La Sombra front for Pope Alexander VI.
Yeah, who was
according
the dad.
White Wolf never officially said so, but in the in-person first accounts and letters of La Sombra to other La Sombras, they brag about using the Borgias and building up the Borgia family as a fear tactic. So it's almost like a smoke screen, what the Kwaijin would call a scarlet screen. Kind of how like the Genji used the Yakuza. Well, the La Sombra used the Borgias as a screen to be able to manipulate the papacy.
Right, which is not a surprise because
your second favorite clan and my second favorite clan were in charge of the Borgias.
Yeah, and it makes perfect sense. I remember they also had, the La Sombra had a character. It was an archbishop in Mexico City. I forget his name, but that was a badass vampire character.
The Archbishop of Mexico City was Melinda Galbraith, who is the Toreador. She was a child of Helena.
Okay, because I think she was the
regent. She was the regent of the Sabbat. She was the regent of the Sabbat in Mexico City. It was Melinda Galbraith. She had obtenuberation, but she was actually a Toreador. She was fifth generation Toreador, child of Helena.
I wonder who I'm thinking of because it was this Monsignor something. I think it was a big guy.
Moncada.
Yes,
Moncada. But Moncada was we're talking about Spain now. But Moncada was in charge of the papacy, but he was in Spain.
Yeah,
wasn't.
I had it mixed up.
Eventually, Lucida, his child, became, after the Gehenna Wars around 2018. She became nominated to be Regent of the Sabbat which is stupid because they had two regions. They had Polonia leading the Sabbat offensive in Afghanistan, and then they had another region in Mexico City, which would be cardinals. They wouldn't be regents.
Right.
You can't have two regions. I mean, the definition of the word is only one region.
Ruler.
You can't have two regions. Yeah.
Oh no! So before I got cut off, that Berlin
Hey,
by
what
Night.
were you saying? My bad.
Now, is that part of a game? Is that part of a gaming system? Is that a novel? Okay.
Yes, it's part of Vampire the Masquerade. It's not a novel, it's a game book. But if you just read the character descriptions in the back of the book, if you just read the book from left to right, you'll understand why the game is so fucking cool. But even if you have no one to play with, you can read the books. And it's so interesting because it's not a linear line. It's just like a whole bunch of triggerable events where you get to read what's going on in the mind of all the vampires in the city. And they've got all these politics and all these opinions. So if you drop a character in that city, it's like a puddle hitting a pool and there's ripples.
Because that's the kind of
every
thing,
interaction the characters take. That's it.
I've read so many source books and never played a game, but if it's well written, I like stuff like that.
Now, if you it's amazing. So the other thing you'll like is the Dark Kingdom of Barbed Wire, also known as Sheol, for Wraith the Oblivion. This talks about how an underworld was created just to take in all the souls from the Holocaust. And it's so dark of a game that they didn't do it through White Wolf, they did it through Black Dog, because anytime they thought they were going to get sued, they'd basically release the book as a Black Dog book so that it's over 18, and that if people throw a fit, like the Shemisi Clan book was Black Dog. Montreal by Night was Black Dog. The Freak Legion was Black Dog. The Black Dog books were the best books. Black Dog books were the best. So Montreal by Night was the best fucking city for Vampire the Masquerade by far. And the Dark Kingdom of Barbed Wire, which is called Sheol, is the darkest of Wraith. And Wraith was such a dark game, they had to discontinue it because it's upset people so much. Because with Wraith, you're playing someone who's dead. And it's like part of your soul just is trying to drag you into hell at all times. And so you're just fighting to not go to hell. And basically you feed off of the emotions of the living. And as your loved ones slowly die from old age, the chains that hold you to the material world start to snap, and your soul gets dragged to hell. So the Dark Kingdom of Barbed Wire is made as a special hell for the people who are killed. And in the world of darkness, there is no heaven, just different hells. And each one's ruled by a different type of monstrous ruler. And when people go to heaven, they think they're going to heaven, but they're going to a hell where someone's very controlling and heavy-handed.
About what year were these stories written? Like when were these stories
That does
written?
sound like hell.
Okay.
92 or 93 for Berlin,
I'm
94,
sure
95 for Sheol.
Right? Okay. So I started reading, I was
Absolutely,
from day one. Right. So Spawn launched in 92. And then as he got into the mythology of Spawn, he was talking like there were a couple of issues.
I have
where
Spawn
you
on
find
number
out there's heaven and there's hell, but there's really not heaven. There's just different hells with different. So it sounds like I think I'm getting where Todd pulled some of this stuff from.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That Todd McFarlane was probably, it would sound cheap to say that
I'm sure
he took from White Wolf. I'm sure they took from each other. Because,
right.
Yeah. So the idea is that it's so dark. The idea is basically at some point, God just said, fuck it, and just started a new universe and left this one alone and left Lucifer in charge of Earth. And that he didn't go to hell because Lucifer led the army against heaven.
Right.
That every angel that sided with Lucifer was clearly a traitor, so God cast him to hell. But when they're in hell, they looked around, they're like, where's Lucifer? Why isn't he in with us? And they realized Lucifer sold him the fuck out. That Lucifer basically was doing God's will the whole time.
Man.
And Lucifer set them up to see who was a traitor and who wasn't. And that Lucifer's reward was that after the fall, God handed the world over to Lucifer, and he just moved on and pieced out to start a new universe with better humans that were more servants than free will. Because originally it was Lilith that talked Eve into biting from the fruit of knowledge because she was bitter at God for kicking her out of Eden for not being submissive to Adam. So she got revenge against God and Adam by tempting Eve to bite from the fruit of knowledge so that she wouldn't be submissive. So Lilith was the first feminist and talked Eve into free will. And so Lucifer was basically there the whole time, and he didn't do any of that. But he got blamed for it. Lucifer's basically on Earth, walking around trying to hold the planet together. All the demons of hell are getting out of hell, trying to find him and kill him. Lilith's basically influencing the vampires behind the scenes. And so there's a big war that's basically the end of the world is when Cain rises, Lilith rises, Lucifer rises, and in the battles between them and their children is the whole world is basically torn to pieces.
It's a comic book series called The Sandman by Neil Gaiman. Dude, the show, they did a good job.
I've seen the show. I've seen the show.
The comics.
Todd, you need to get those books.
Were there, Gonzalo, like 7 graphic novels that they collected them in?
Mind blowing.
Yeah.
7 graphic novels total. I think it was about roughly 100.
What an awesome
individual
story.
comic books. Turned into those 7.
You'll fly
yeah, but it was
them.
like 7
you'll
graphic
fly through them.
novels.
So
like
got,
they're all like an arc.
They're
each an arc. Yeah.
Kindle, so I've got them downloaded digitally. I think you can get them for like $10 a piece, the collected editions, to get the digital copies. But man, like what he's talking about.
Yeah.
And dude, Todd, if you
that's what you want.
Like,
you want the ones that are all
into the politics of hell. You would really dig that. You'd love it. You love it.
Oh yeah, yes, you will love this. This
Dude,
is 100%.
It's so cool.
Right up your alley.
So in the Demon the Fallen branch of the game, there's 5 different factions. There's the ones who want to get back into heaven. There's the ones who want to serve Lucifer. There's the ones who want to find Lucifer and kill him. And then the ones that basically just want to burn all the humans to death to punish God because God loves humans more than angels, and so they're jealous.
All the variations. That's interesting. That's
and then there's 7 there's 7 days of the week and 7 colors of the rainbow. And so each one of the 7 houses of the fallen is aligned with 1 color, 1 frequency, and 1 day of the week, the day they were created. So there's the angels of light, which Lucifer was the first one on the first day. And then the second day was the firmament, which is basically the wind. And so as the demons were the second house angels were like healers, but when they got twisted in hell, their torment rises. As they get more tormented, they start to want plague instead. So depending on when your soul goes into a human for possession, that depending how good that person is, some of your angelic nature comes out. So it's like now that person's soul fuses with your soul. So you're kind of can do angel powers, or as you do more evil shit, you start to become more tormented. And now when you try to heal people, instead you just poison them. So angels of light, if they're torment driven enough, they do fire and things like that. The angels of healing, they basically cause disease as they become more tormented.
You become corrupted. You know,
the angels of song and emotion and love become like really succubi. Cool. So,
I mean, the amount of imagination and creativity that the White Wolf. What was the guy's name?
Maurice Hagen started the vampire thing, but it was basically just kind of like a Depeche Mode Anne Rice thing. It was Andrew Greenberg actually wrote all the cool stuff.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Andrew Greenberg was the smart one. He's the one who wrote the Sabbat book.
Yeah.
The Camarilla book was just some lame Anne Rice masturbatory nonsense to some goth music, but the Sabbat is where it was fucking at. And then when he wrote Dirty Secrets of the Black Hand and created the Talmud Reha.
I love that book.
That they fired him because he was too creative and they got jealous. But the other books, like The Demon the Fallen was written by Mike Lee, and Mage the Ascension was fucking amazing, especially the Technocracy.
I would love to know where people come up with this.
I
stuff.
love White Wolf shit.
The imagination.
They had like a lot of stuff.
It's amazing. It blows my mind. All right, guys. I'm sorry. I've got a heart out. I've got to jump off here, so I apologize.
So hey, I wanted to throw no worries at all, Larry. It was awesome. Like I knew you guys would like hit it off. So we will do this again for sure, sir.
Had a good time, buddy.
Well, you've not. Okay, so you need to come over there.
Gotcha.
I've never been on those, honestly. Yeah.
Okay.
I've never engaged in that kind of stuff. Yeah. I basically do podcasts.
That'd be awesome.
If you want, Gonzo can give you my number and you can call me.
For real.
Yeah, definitely. I'll put you guys in touch.
Yeah. I try never to put anything in writing because it can be used against you later. Phone calls are the only safe thing you can do now.
That's my wife. My wife tells me this all the time.
You too, Larry. It was really nice meeting you, buddy.
Catch you later, Larry. Be good. All right, later on. So yeah, man, like I said, like I figured that you and Larry would definitely like it would be like you guys have way too much in common to talk. It would be hilarious to watch you guys go back and forth. So
I basically was just a shill for White Wolf this whole time, like I am every episode.
Well, White Wolf is cool, man.
White Wolf has the, well, it was, remember, like White Wolf
Yeah,
ceased to exist, and now Vampire is owned by
Is it Wizard of
another
the Coast
gaming.
again?
No, it's not Wizard of the Coast. It's like
Okay.
Renegade Games or Onyx Path. And so, like, the point is they made it. I don't know who the fuck made it woke. Morpheus. So Morpheus had it in 2018 and made it woke as fuck. And then Renegade eventually got a hold of it, and they're doing the best they can with it. And Onyx Path got a hold of it and is trying to fix it. But holy fuck, did they ruin it with everyone, even the millennials, even the Gen Z guys. They fucking hate 5th edition because of how woke it is.
I think I may have like glanced at a book at a bookstore once, a 5th edition, but to me, first and second.
What they try to do is they try to take Vampire the Masquerade's IP and they tried to use Requiem's game mechanics, but the people who wrote the book were so artsy and so left-leaning that they couldn't handle the math. It was too much for them. So they couldn't actually make the game mechanic. They're too stupid to just to port all the game mechanics right over from Requiem. So they basically, it's half Masquerade, half Requiem rules, but they're like in the combat stuff, they're just like, you know, combat kind of slows the game down and is really dull. So just have the storyteller make up what happens. It's like, fuck you, bitch. I'm not spending... What the fuck? What kind of stupid... And they're saying, like, you use perception for firearms in this situation and composure in firearms in this situation. It's up to the storyteller to decide. It's like, shut the fuck up.
Just give
That's
some
retarded.
Rules. Yeah, just give some rules.
Use perception when you use a scope on a rifle.
Yeah.
And you use dexterity when you use a handgun normally. And then they're saying, well, with composure, if someone's running at you, you need composure. Otherwise, you might panic. It's like, under that same logic, you stupid bitch, every single thing you do in combat would be composure. Composure is a social attribute. It's social resistance.
Yeah,
these stupid fucks don't know what they're doing.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. If somebody doesn't know game mechanics or game balance
at all. They didn't. It's just like how She-Hulk was written by a bunch of people who didn't read She-Hulk. These are a bunch of fucking twinks who are like 20 years old writing a game that I've been playing for 30 fucking years. Go fuck yourself. Who the fuck are you to tell me how the rules are?
So, hey, alternate history, another call out. Watchmen. I mean, Watchmen.
Watchmen was great, but that was great. I don't know.
I mean,
I never read the comics. I watched the movie. And I know the comics was better because it's a giant squid instead of a nuclear weapons.
That's really the big difference. But the end result is the same. You know, it's the manufactured event in order to galvanize people.
The comics were so ugly, and Zack Snyder's movie was so good. I know people shit all over Zack Snyder. I think Zack Snyder's an amazing director.
He did 300. He did Dawn of the Dead, by the way, the remake, which was great.
He does everything great. Everyone hates Rebel Moon, but he said the reason why people hate it is because the studio got a hold of it and made it PG-13 and ruined it. If the original version, the R-rated version, is supposed to be good. Yeah. And he even doesn't like the PG-13 version either. He said the only reason why he agreed to it is because they told him he'd be allowed to release the R-rated version eventually.
So deal with the devil being Netflix.
Just like the Justice League. It's like the Snyder cut's a million times better than the theatrical version.
Yeah. So definitely that's a call out, I guess. Did you ever see Iron Sky, or have you heard of that movie? The one with the Nazis on the moon. That's alternate, I guess, history, and maybe Brazil. Maybe you could, if you're into the whole.
I watched that when I was a kid, but I couldn't follow it because I was.
It's a weird ass movie. It's Terry Gilliam doing weird shit. It's like super.
I watched it when I was a kid, and my dad's like, do you like this?" And I was like, "I don't know what the hell's going on." He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty hard to follow. It's not really a kids movie." And I was like, "Well, whatever."
No, it's like remember the Adventures of Baron Munchausen or whatever.
I love that as a kid. Yeah,
but it was that same kind of absurdist, out there.
I never knew what the fuck was going on when I watched that movie. It's like you're on acid when you're sober. Yeah, it is the weirdest fucking movie.
Exactly right. Man, so let's see. Yeah, that's all I got as far as like the alternate history like conversation. Anything else you got in mind? Anything else that let's see. As far as games, we cover Shadowrun for sure. Alternate history.
Shadowrun is fucking amazing.
Just phenomenal. I wonder, does Fallout count as alternate history as a video game? Yeah. That's a good one. BioShock too, by the way.
I never played BioShock.
You'd like it if assuming you like Fallout, that style of game. BioShock.
Well, I like Fallout because it's Bethesda. I don't like Fallout because of the setting.
Okay,
it's too cutesy for me.
Yeah,
I like grittier stuff. Yeah, like Walking Dead.
Yeah, then BioShock might not be like the best thing. Shit, Walking Dead. I guess that's alternate history now.
Right, and it also was a comic book too.
Yeah, yeah. So I got into the series and never the comic book, but I heard the comic book was even darker. Actually, like
I never read comic books after '92. Once
okay,
Spawn drove the prices of comic books up to $5, I switched from comics to role playing games, and I never went back. I think like
gotcha.
comics are for people who aren't smart enough to play role playing games.
Well, so the comic's predetermined for you, right? It's passive entertainment. Where
Right.
like a role playing game is you have to make the story. You have to be the
Right.
characters.
Well, or your storyteller makes a story and you just have to navigate it. But the point is there's nothing about comic books that's as good as an RPG. If the RPG's right, like you like Marvel, play the Marvel RPG. You like
Which is
Star
good, by the
Wars,
way.
play
Yeah.
the Star Wars RPG. You like Wheel of Time, play the Wheel of Time RPG. You like Lovecraft shit, play Call of Cthulhu the RPG. There's never a reason to waste your time on comics when you could be playing an RPG, unless you don't have any friends and you have no choice but to read comics.
Well, or if you're like a graphic artist like myself, the actual imagery, like new imagery in some comic books is really like
That's true.
enjoy observing that.
With the exception of X-Men and Spider-Man and Spawn in the early 90s, before that, comic books were ugly and sucky. The comic books looked like shit.
In the 80s, you had the start of
comics
some cool,
look like shit.
You had the start of some cool shit because Frank Miller kind of, in Daredevil, the old original Daredevil runs in the 80s. Where Frank Miller was a kid basically drawing it. That was a start, man. That was good.
I think it all looked like Dick Tracy bullshit.
Oh shit.
It wasn't until like these when Todd McFarlane was basically the first good comic book artist. Before that, it was all garbage.
Oof, those are strong words, Doctor. Those are very strong words. Because Steranko back in the day, man, and
you
Neil
probably
Adams.
know more than I do. I'm talking about from my experience.
Well,
I feel like around when Spawn came out, it upped the level. Valiant Comics had a bunch of good artwork, but the price was too high. It was $5 for a comic book.
Yeah,
I had a $20 allowance, so I could have. I could buy 4 comic books and read through them in an hour, or I could buy 2 game books and use those game books for the next 10 years.
That's true. So I worked at a comic book shop right around that time, like in the early 90s to the mid 90s. So I probably would have been selling you the role-playing games because they had role-playing games and comic books, In
fact, I'm going to go grab something. I'll be right back. I want to show you something cool.
Go for it, man. Let's see. It'll be something cool. It usually is.
I want you to guess. Before I show you, I want you to guess what is my favorite race in D.
Oh, actually,
this is easy.
This is easy. No, this is not easy.
It is easy. My favorite race in D&D.
A tiefling.
No, that's way later. The Drow.
The Drow are amazing.
This is the original box set from 1992.
I recognize it.
This is my first exposure to feminism, where women's whip and kill men just for looking at them. They have snake whips with the number of heads on the snake whip is what their rank and status is. The men are second-class citizens.
And they're all demon worshippers, right? Because back then, was it still the Loth?
Loth was the 66th level of the Abyss was ruled by Loth.
Yeah.
And Loth is obviously based off the character Lilith.
Yeah,
but it's a spider version of Lilith. So my first exposure to feminism and Lilith worship is the Drow. And I've always been attracted to chicks with really dark skin and white hair.
Yeah.
Like I've always had a thing for Drow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's I can see it. And this is where I realized that you and I are exactly like probably 7-8 years apart. Because
I'm 40, 50.
Yeah. So that's it, like 9 years apart. Because I can so see now that you were a little bit younger when all of this came out. So it must have impressed you as a younger...
12 years old. Yeah, it completely changed my life. Like everything happened when I was 12. Like from 12 to 13, I started drinking at that time. Like there is all types of shit hit the fan when I was 12.
Bro.
Started smoking, started drinking. I switched from comic books to RPGs. By the time like 90, we were afraid of vampire. We were terrified of vampire. We would see the books and just look at them like, oh my God, that is the darkest shit ever. And eventually we're like, fuck it. And we started playing vampire and it's never went back.
It's that temptation, man. It's that temptation once it bites. Yeah.
Within 1 year, I'm like, let's do Sabbat. And we started playing Sabbat in 1996. And I've never thought the cam was anything but a pile of shit ever since. Fuck the cam. It's so lame. It's so pathetic. The Sabbat's so much better.
I love the politics of the Camarilla, but the Sabbat were honestly the real vampire, in my opinion.
There's much more politics in the Sabbat than there is in the cam. the Sabbat has 4 different political parties. There's the ultra-conservatives, the conservatives, the moderates. Actually, there's 5, the loyalists and the panders. That's 5 political parties. There's 2 high clans, and then there's 11 low clans and like 12 different bloodlines. The Sabbat has an actual bylaws. They've got the Code of Milan, where it's got 12 or 15 basic commandments, and then there's addendums. Then they've got the structure that every pack has a ductus and a priest. They've got the paths of enlightenment. So you have so many different religions of vampirism that there's above the ductus, there's bishops. The bishops control multiple packs. And then above a bishop, multiple bishops serve an archbishop. And then the archbishop controls one city. Then a cardinal, there's a total of 13 cardinals to break up the whole world. And then there's also the 13 priest guy council that serves the region as an advisor. There's no structure like that in the cam.
No, the Camilla's the 7 clans, I guess, doing their thing with the primogen.
It's more complicated. No,
right?
there's 7. The cam is 7 members of the inner council, 1 from each clan, usually the founders. Then under them, there's 1 Justicar that serves them. And the Justicar goes around and metes out justice amongst all the princes in
and
their
he's got
domain.
the Archons helping him and all that shit.
There's the Archons, and there's also Alistairs that hunt people on the red list. But that's it. I mean, even just that alone, in the Sabbat, you've got Templars who serve bishops and archbishops, paladins that serve cardinals. So all of this is accounted for. I mean, in this Camarilla, there's just humanity. There's so
And the coolest thing ever, or one of the coolest things ever in the Sabbat, is the Black Hand. The Black Hand is
I haven't even got in there. Well, there's the Inquisition and there's the Black Hand. So the Black Hand serves the regent, and the Black Hand acts as a census and military and government body over all normal Sabbat. But the Inquisition can investigate anyone for infernalism, even the regent. So there's checks and balances, just like how the U.S. has the Congress,
the 3 branches of government,
executive branch or judicial. In the Sabbat, there's 3 branches of government. The Camarilla has no real structure. It was written by Mark Greenhagen. It was very basic. The Sabbat's written by Andrew Greenberg is so much better in every way. And then again, the worst thing about the cam is that stupid humanities shit. Like, half the Sabbat have humanity. They have low humanities because they're not very smart. They're not very pious. They can't stick to a path of enlightenment. But you have so many vampire religions in the Sabbat.
I like that though, because it almost allowed the players to choose, do I want to play this as in I'm a human who hates that I'm a vampire seeking redemption, or am I embracing the beast and then playing the other side of it? And you have both. You have all of these in one game system, in one universe,
Well,
it's really cool.
It's the most popular game system. It's also the simplest. That's why it was so popular. Werewolf's more complicated. Mage is insanely complicated. Wraith was too complicated. Angeling was kind of too cheerful. Demon was simple enough, but it didn't catch on because the artwork was so bad. They didn't want it to be too dark. You have a fucking book called Demon the Fallen, and you make it all cartoony. These stupid assholes. They should have used the original artwork from the Shimizi.
Like the Tim Bradstreet stuff?
Tim Bradstreet was very time-based, the gothic punk thing from 2nd edition. But by the time they got to revise, they dropped the gothic punk shit and they dropped the infernalism in the Sabbat as being the core concepts, and they focused on the Gehenna War primarily.
Okay, gotcha. I got to read up on this because it's been a while, and I have all these books right there. It's time to crack them open and physically read something that's not on a screen.
I just found my copy of the Ursias' fragment the other day. The Ursias' fragment is the Dark Ages version of the Book of Nod.
Oh, that's right, because there was Vampire the Dark Ages, which was fun as fuck too, by the way.
Right.
That was
and then they came out with Dark Ages Vampire. So there's Vampire the Dark Ages was the 2nd edition. And then in 3rd edition they had Dark Ages Vampire. Because they had Dark Ages Werewolf, Dark Ages Fae, Dark Ages Mage, and there's also Mummy the Resurrection. No one remembers that game.
That was good, though.
Orpheus
I do remember
the
that game now that you mention it. Yeah.
Orpheus the Dreaming, Prometheus. There's so many fucking sub games that people forgot about because they never got popular.
It's when they say World of Darkness, they're not kidding. I mean, it's seriously, it's
Kindred of the East.
Yeah,
I'm running a game right now that takes place in the Wicked City in the Yomi Hell, where the character is just murdered Mikuboshi and took the throne as the Yama King. And so his job is basically try to grow that version of hell so it dominates over other hells. So rather than going to war, he's running it like a business where he's just collecting the most amount of souls. So releasing, basically going to start pumping fentanyl into the cities so that more people overdose and die, so that they come to him, because if they die in a city, they go to him. If they die somewhere else, they go to other places. The game basically we stopped playing in 2003 with that character right after he murdered Mikoboshi, and then we just picked it up again. 22 years later. So after 22 years, I'm playing, because he's running my character after I just killed the Assamite Antediluvian in the Gehenna War. And so I'm running the Pac Rim, because the Pac Rim is basically now fallen into the Quasian underworld. So all of the Asian and the Pac Rim is now basically part of the Kindred of the East game. So San Francisco, Los Angeles, that's all basic. So he's spreading into Vancouver. He's spreading into Tijuana. So he's basically going to corrupt some werebats in Mexico and then have them corrupt the dragon nests, which are basically cairns. And then he's going to have Pentex build a skyscraper on top of a cairn and then use it as a portal to summon demons and inhabit humans, because that's what a Bakemono is. A Bakemono is basically a Fomori. Yeah. So instead of a Bane inhabiting a human, it's a demon from his plane. So when Bakemono from the Wicked City is basically a cyber zombie. Or so basically I'm running the Wicked City like it's Shadowrun. And so he's basically a vampire character who's ruling a Shadowrun type city where all the cybernetics available in Shadowrun, he can give to his minions and whatnot. Nice. And when they come to Earth, they get to keep them, but they have to come through channels. If he leaves his demon plane, he's at risk of being murdered, because on Earth, he's just a 10th gen vampire. But in the Wicked City, he's a god. So that what's going to happen is
so many good storytelling possibilities.
Right.
Here.
So he's got these servants that worship Mikoboshi, but since he murdered Mikoboshi in Mikoboshi Tower, the only way to move up in Mikoboshi Enterprises is to kill your boss. So because he murdered Mikoboshi, he gets to be the Demon Emperor. I mean, he gets to be the Yama King. And so they serve him because it doesn't matter. He inherited the throne, so now he owns their souls.
Right.
The ones that serve him is a lightning elemental that basically can jump. He jumps into kids' toys, and any kid that plays with him on Earth, he then sucks them to hell. And so then there's a metal elemental that's basically an AI, and she's just a bunch of nanobots. So she can basically form into a face. But this is before there were AIs, because it's 2003, right? The only AI that existed in this time was the leader of Iteration X, which is based in General Motors headquarters in Detroit, Michigan. That on Earth, there was no AI yet, but in the Wicked City, there is. And then he also has a were spider called a goblin spider. That's his assassin. And then he also has a couple other Quasian Akuma that serve him. And he's got a white were tiger that serves him, and a Haken, a black furred shadow lord.
Weird nest, my friend. But that's the story.
So he's able to deploy certain assets. So like one of them has a 10 charisma and a 10 appearance, and she's got an obligation of 5. So she can basically just talk to people and generate the equivalent of a 3-point blood bond, kind of like level 6 presence love.
Yeah.
So he sends her into the city to soften up the princes and gets them to serve her. And she registers as a human because she's a Quasian and she's yang aspected. So her aura doesn't read as a vampire. So she's able to slip through his food. And then when the prince goes to feed on her, then she's able to trap him. And then she gets them to sell their soul to him. And then once they sell their soul to him, he's able to start having another one, his necromancer, go in and corrupt the dragon nests. And so then they can build a Pentex. Also, Zaibatsu is a branch of the technocracy, and the Zaibatsu is actually the ones funding Strike Force Zero to hunt Shen. So the Strike Force Zero, the hunters in Asia, are being fueled by the technocracy. But what they don't understand is the people who Mikoboshi rules the Zaibatsu. So Mikoboshi's taking cybernetics from the Wicked City and having them implanted in hunters, and they're going out killing for him. And they don't realize that they're slowly becoming Bakemono, which is basically Fomori. So all of these good-natured hunters are actually slowly, the more cybernetic enhancements they get to kill monsters better, the more they're going to serve Mikoboshi. So his goal is to spread out, have Asian expansion into Vancouver and Tijuana, and start to have all the coyotes that funnel people over into the US. Instead, they just take them into portals to hell. And so he'll fill up
even more so.
The more souls he gets, the bigger his hell grows. And eventually, if he dominates over the other realms, like his realm alone makes up 30% of all 1,000 hells. So geographically, his hell's spreading, just like in Ravenloft, how in theory, if your Barovia is made up of different domains.
Yeah,
and
it's like
the
a quasi-plane or something.
Yeah,
right?
it's quasi-plane. So it's kind of like that. And is the more souls he gets, the more bloated his realm gets, the greater the Wicked City grows. And so in order to grow that, like if New York became part of the Quasian underworld rather than the Stygia, then anyone who died in New York would then go to his realm, the Wicked City. So he's trying to grow all of the Pacific Rim by taking these border towns and filling his coffers with souls. And so eventually the goal is if he takes over enough of the underworld and he takes over 51%, he becomes a demon emperor. So this is the best twist, right? There's a prophecy that the demon emperor will be Zaulat. You remember Saulat?
Yeah, Saulat of the Salubri. Yeah.
So here's the thing. When Saulat rose in the Gehenna book, in Tremir's body, certain Tremere had a third eye appear in their head. So this character is a Tremere. So he had a third eye when he killed Mikuboshi. So in the underworld, they thought it was Saulat.
Gotcha.
So they basically started calling him Zaulat. And so now Zaulat is the Lord of the Wicked City.
It's like a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point.
And so basically they accepted him because a prophecy told them a three-eyed Western vampire would come and become the demon emperor. So instead of fighting against him, they see it as a prophecy being fulfilled.
Right. So yet
again, and this worked out organically. I mean, this is not something I constructed. I had to just fucking roll with it. He took to I expected him to be conquesting and trying to take over other demon planes, but he stuck with the corporate model and he's just trying to perform the other. He's looking at every demon plane like it's a business, and the more souls you accumulate, the more powerful your hell becomes. So he's just trying to expand. So rather than trying to drive more souls to hell, he's expanding his empire on Earth. So eventually every city on Earth will be part of the Wicked City.
Yeah. Yeah. This right here is what we were talking about as far as like the advantage of active storytelling, where you set something up, but you have other people and you're like just riffing on the story and everybody brings a little something and the sum total is always more than like what somebody could write by themselves, you know?
Yeah, there's no way that a comic book would be as much mental activity. It'd be like the difference between watching a movie or playing a video game. There's the difference between reading a comic book or actually being in a role-playing game.
Right. Or being part of that. Yeah. Right. Being part of it, you know, but because ultimately it's in your imagination anyway. So.
Right. But like I've been playing this game for 30 something years. Mm-hmm. So I feel that this chronicle is almost overwhelming because I haven't really familiarized myself enough with Asian culture and enough with all of the source books that go with the East. Like they've redone everything, like Henjaioke. Every fucking were creature is different in Asia.
Yeah.
So every one of the 1,000 hells needs to be detailed.
So let me ask you this: is that something you enjoyed, like diving into the research, so to speak? Because it'll give you an opportunity to read a bunch of shit that you probably haven't read in forever, if at all.
It takes a lot of time. Like just the Strike First Zero is a 200-page book.
Yeah.
And they're just in the background. They're a tool that he's going to use through a tool of the Zaibatsu that's going to be used through a tool of Pentax. So I have to read the Freak Legion book. I have to read the Pentax book. I have to read the Technocracy book. I have to read the Zaibatsu book. I have to read the Strike Force Zero book. And he may not use those tools.
Right. He might decide to take the story elsewhere.
He might just choose not to use any of them.
Yeah. And there's something else completely unexpected.
I had to pivot on a dime and he's like, you know what? I'm not going to go to Tokyo. I'm going to go to San Francisco. So I had 36 hours to read through all of San Francisco and rememorize all of the things that are going on in that city. And then he's going to go to Tokyo. So it's like, and then Tokyo is made up of 7 different supernatural factions. And they don't detail any of the characters really.
Right.
It's
so
just
again, you have
one character in charge, and all of them are just weak as fuck. I was like, well, the head of Tokyo out of 30 million people is weaker than a mid-level Quasian in San Francisco, which is only 1 million people. This doesn't make any sense. If they came from Tokyo because they weren't powerful enough to rule Tokyo and they come to San Francisco and they're 10 times stronger than the ruler of Tokyo, I have to rewrite the characters in the Tokyo.
Right. You have to level them up. You're going to have to make it like that they're a challenge of some sort.
Well, they have to make sense. Like a lot of their stuff, it's like, I've got a power with super strength, but I don't know how to fight.
Yeah.
Or it's like,
Yeah,
I've got a
what's
really
up?
powerful magic sword, but I don't know how to use it. Like, whoever wrote these characters are fucking retarded.
Yeah. Or they were given, so I'd look at those as like potential storytelling opportunities. Like when you have something that doesn't make sense like that, you could probably be like turn it into something like that. You know?
That you're giving them too much credit. I always,
Well, I'm trying to make lemons with what is it? Lemonade with lemons.
I don't need to make, I can fuck their lemons. I'll pull out some oranges and make orange juice. I'm just gonna be like, I'll take the character description and I'll make this character actually make sense. Like
Yeah.
in the character description, this is a beautiful woman, and then her appearance is a 2 out of 5. It's like,
Yeah, it's like
who the fuck made this character? You're a fucking moron. Like it's like someone wrote the character and someone else did the stats, and the
Yeah.
stats don't match the write up.
which may well have happened because some of the product later, I imagine, like, you know, there may have been collaboration and notes and all that. So who knows?
I don't give credit to anybody. That you either do it perfect or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of doing it perfect or not doing it at all, your Infinity Gauntlet video came up on my feed today. Part
really?
2. Oh my God. And it cracked me up because it reminded me so much of like human nature and wanting to like do the things that you know you shouldn't, but you're curious and somebody's gonna pick up that gun off the table at some point. You know, like which is crazy. Oh, and I was meaning to ask you after our conversation about the Anadrol vampires, right? I saw also a video where like you tried Anadrol finally, and what was that
try?
like?
I've used it 100 times. I just
Okay,
never
I didn't know if it
used
was
it as a
that-
pre-workout before. And
Okay,
it was,
so
it's exactly as I said in the video.
just angry
no.
Anavar
No, I wasn't that angry.
driven.
I think you should just watch the video again. And
I guess I'm gonna have to because like the
Yeah,
impression I remember it was very entertaining. Your description of it, it did make me want to never try Anadrol in my life, you know. And like you said in the video, definitely not for the average gym bro. There's no
I
point.
don't think I said that either.
Yeah, I thought you did. I thought you did like something like you know. There's no,
I never used the word gym bro.
Yeah. Well, you
Yeah.
know,
I said it's probably for
non-competitive
bodybuilders only. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, non-competitive bodybuilder, there's no point. But the message came through clear that it's a very specific tool for a very specific scenario. Is what it sounds like.
I would use it before a video shoot. Is what I said in the video.
Yeah, just to get that look.
That was the only use of the drug. It's pre-video shoot. It's not useful
Pre-video
pre-contest. It's not good for stage. It doesn't make you stronger. That's all in people's heads. They just basically it's just they've got an inner pussy, and then when they hear they're allowed, someone tells them this will make you strong. They just try.
So a big placebo effect.
It's just
like
placebo. Yeah.
self-confidence.
It's just
It's like
weak-minded
the-
people are easily influenced. So if you tell them this drug will make you strong, then they imagine they're stronger. But their logbook doesn't show any difference. Well, I felt stronger. It's like, I don't give a fuck how you feel. What does the numbers show?
By
And
the
they're
way,
not smart enough to know the difference between reality and imagination.
By the way, I modified. Remember how I was doing that one set to failure thing? I figured like I wasn't getting enough volume. Like the lifts were progressing, but barely. So I added a set thinking, okay, so 2 sets will guarantee that I'll get the stimulus because if I go to failure in the first, that means that whatever I get out of the second, which I'll try and get close to that should be enough stimulus. I mean, 2 sets.
And the results
per body
were?
part. Yeah. So far, so good. Now I was stuck at a plateau with a couple of lifts and I broke through.
Okay.
So there's that. And it's not drastic. It's like, you know, an extra rep or an extra 2, but it is consistently an extra rep.
Right.
Or, you know, 1.25 pounds. I have the little micro plates so that I can, well, it's a way to progress, right? It's so that you can actually see it and force that change. You know, I keep hearing that, like, you know, I never realized until I started talking to you and kind of diving deep that most people will never put in the effort lifting weights to actually cause real hypertrophy.
Correct. They just use drugs and they just get diseases because they're stupid.
Well, because then you abuse the drugs, right? Rather than doing
and then
the
eventually
right thing.
their diets are shit, and then they take drugs that'll cause whatever their diet, whatever flaw their diet has, the drugs will amplify that problem with their genetic flaws, and they'll manifest the disease. But they'll never actually grow real muscle tissue because they lift like pussies. And that doesn't mean that you have to take everything beyond failure, do force reps. Lifting like pussies is you're just too stupid and weak to do it right, which is you use a logbook, you record everything, you never deviate, you stick to the plan no matter what, and you do it exactly the correct way with perfect form, perfect adherence, perfect discipline every single day.
Yeah.
And everything.
It's
Diet, supplement, training. No mercy for yourself ever. Never cut yourself some slack. You're never good enough. You have to be better than the day before.
And be comfortable with the long game, even when you get all those things right.
There is no short game.
Yeah.
There is no short game.
Long.
There's no shortcuts to growing muscle. Muscle grows slow as fuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I've realized that now, though. But it does grow. And the thing is that what's maddening, well, maybe not maddening, but it's that you can feel the effects of it growing without even seeing it because, again, the logbook doesn't lie. Assuming you're doing everything right and you're doing these reps are controlled, they are the same tempo every time, they're taken in the same manner every time, then you'll see the growth as the weight goes up or as you add that resistance, progressive overload, right? So, but most people won't even get that. They won't even get that far, man. So, all right, Todd, so what's next? What else you got going on?
I got to eat dinner.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I just ran over in here after the gym and all that. But I'm going to leave you with this quote that I heard somebody in the office tell me. I was wearing short sleeves and you see the bicep vein? That dude said, like, you walk into this office with that bicep vein is like driving up to a corporate meeting in a Ferrari. And I'm like, what?
That's so funny.
And he's like, well, meaning anybody who has the discipline to do that in today's world where everyone's like obese and not paying attention to it, anyone who has the discipline to do that at your age, at over 50, it's almost like, yeah, I just showed you I can be disciplined and accomplish something I want to accomplish if I really want to, just by walking in the door and the fitness level. And a bodybuilder, imagine, is the same, if not even more magnified, because how many people can do or, like perform to a level that causes that growth over time that makes you a competitive bodybuilder. Not easy at all, my friend.
That's why it's only 1 in 4 million people have a pro card.
Yep. Well, you hear crazy statistics like, what is it, like only 10% of men or 15% can bench 225? And you're like, 225?
It's way lower than that. It's way lower.
Is it lower than that?
Way lower than that. Way lower than that.
Which is crazy when you think about it, because it doesn't take that much effort to build yourself up to do that. Again, I don't know. I guess it's priorities like anything else. Some people prioritize being healthy and being fit or not. We should ask Nova.
All adult men, untrained or fit, it's 1%.
1%. 1 in 800.
1 to 3%. 1 to 3% of adult men. If you narrow that to men who regularly lift, it's 20 to 30%.
Wow. Yeah, 20 to 30% of everyone who lifts, who actually enjoys lifting, makes way more sense. But still, compared to the general population, again, it's the same idea. It's that if you can do that, you've proven that you can focus, that you can train, and that you can get results that take time. That's all it is to it. Which I hope if there's anything valuable in this podcast, that people realize that you can do this shit, even if it takes a long time. Absolutely. All right, my friend. Then with that, let's call it a night. Until the next one.
All right, buddy. Thanks for having me on, man. I had a good time.
Always. Likewise. All right. Always a pleasure. Good night, sir.
Bye-bye.